Let's talk about Evil Dead Rise. Evil Dead Rise is effectively the latest incarnation of the Evil Dead franchise, created by producer Rob Tappert, Sam Raimi, the director, and of course, the beloved Bruce Campbell as Ash. I grew up watching the Evil Dead franchise. The first Evil Dead movie is a fantastic, fun, seriously taken film, while the second movie goes off the rails. My personal favorite is Evil Dead 2. Evil Dead 2 is a horror classic that leans into comedy, that has Bruce Campbell unhinged. To me, Bruce Campbell was born in that movie. He literally is. Bruce Campbell is Nicolas Cage on acid, if that can be, when you go full Bruce Campbell. And I love him. Like in the Spider-Man movies, when he has a cameo, I'm just a huge fan of Bruce Campbell. And confession here, I knew Sam Raimi, Rob Tappert, and Bruce Campbell back in the day. They had a little company where they made these small movies, and it was called Renaissance Pictures. It was in Ferndale, Michigan, not too far from where I lived in Royal Oak, Michigan. And Sam Raimi and Rob actually lent me a camera, a 16 millimeter Canon Scoopit camera, when I was a kid in college, and I shot a feature-length 16 millimeter movie, which is terrible, but I appreciate that they thought, we're just going to help this kid out. And the great thing about knowing them back in the day, they made themselves very accessible, so I could interview them for Film Threat. So early issues of Film Threat, I have interviews with Sam Raimi, Rob Tappert, Scott Spiegel, Bruce Campbell. Love those guys forever. So, and just seeing their meteoric rise has been great. Evil Dead 3, Army of Darkness, is a very different tone. It's less a horror film and more of a slapstick comedy with some horror elements. I still love Army of Darkness, but Evil Dead 2 is, to me, it's just a classic. Evil Dead Rise is very, very different. What is different about Evil Dead Rise? Well, let me tell you this. And I want to make sure I get the director's name correct here. It is directed by Leo Cronin, who is an Irish director. He's directed one film before this, and but apparently his pitch for this they loved. And originally, Evil Dead Rise was supposed to just be an HBO Max direct to streaming. But Zaslav thought it was so good and they had such good reaction in their test screenings, they decided to release it theatrically. So I think that says something. I think it says a lot about this film. It is very different than previous Evil Dead movies. Okay. Gone is the slapstick comedy. Gone is Bruce Campbell. Although Bruce Campbell has a minor cameo, it's more of an Easter egg on an old-timey record that is discovered and played. He is the voice on the record that summons the spirits. This happens in all the Evil Dead movies. In a way, I would call Evil Dead Rise a hard reboot into a very serious and incredibly dark territory. The tone is straight up. I mean, if you are a gore hound when it comes to loving horror, Evil Dead Rise will be your jam. There are a few moments of levity, maybe two in the entire movie. Other than that, it is horrifying. And why is it horrifying? It's the story of two sisters, one named Ellie, one named Beth. Ellie, played by Alyssa Sutherland, she has 3 kids. And I didn't even notice this when I was watching the film, but the 2 kids, she has 2 teenage kids and then a younger daughter who's got to be like maybe 10, 11 years old, or maybe even 9 years old, little kid. But the teenagers, I guess they're trans, and I didn't even notice it. Maybe you would notice by the haircut. Also, didn't care. And by the way, even though these characters are trans, there's nothing pushed. There's nothing lectured. They just happen to be. So I didn't notice it. I went to the bathroom one time so I asked, did I miss anything? They just happen to be trans characters. And I guess there's like a quick line where but there's nothing. It doesn't feel like there's any sort of like pushing. They're not like constantly talking about being trans. Does that? Okay, so there you go. Alan, did your dog just make a comment?
Yes, she did.
Darn it.
I know.
In any case, so Ellie is visited by her sister Beth. She's kind of like, she works backstage at concerts, whatnot. She's going through some stuff. She's newly pregnant. She's got a young new life in her belly and visiting her sister for advice. Her sister is older, has the 3 kids. The 3 kids uncover this weird record and play this record that has, of course, Bruce Campbell hides his voice very well in this. In fact, not the first time Bruce Campbell's voice has been used in the last couple of years in a movie. In Dan Mervish's movie 18 and a Half, Bruce Campbell plays the voice of President Richard Nixon. So there you are. But once this record is played, a spirit embodies basically inhabits the body of the mother, Ellie, and all chaos ensues. She is effectively a dead husk of herself being manipulated by the spirits. So kind of like, previous Evil Dead movies. The spirit takes over and then suddenly, all chaos ensues. What I am shocked. So then it's up to the sister Beth and the 3 kids to fight off the dead mom. And here's what's shocking about this. It's kind of like in any zombie movie when a character changes, but it's someone you love. I don't even know. I'm trying to think if I've seen a movie where like a mother of young children is basically the villain. And this is all in the trailer, by the way. There are going to be no spoilers for this review. I'm really telling you up basically through like the first act, just about 30 minutes in, which is all in the trailer anyway. The mom then begins going after the children in an effort to, of course, have their bodies possessed by this demon. It is, and this is saying something, the gore in Evil Dead Rise, it may be as gory as previous as Evil Dead 2. Having said that, because the movie is more serious, it's more shocking. And the fact that there are children involved, doubly shocking. The audience was kind of, in a way, traumatized, but applauded at the end. You are in for a journey. I do think, though, that this is like, I have one minor quibble with this film in this sense. If you are going into this movie expecting this to be like previous Evil Dead movies, meaning Bruce Campbell's doing his shtick, or like there's like a new female lead and she's doing Bruce Campbell-y kind of shtick, that's not here. It's different. The director, Lee Cronin, did a different take on Evil Dead. He's taking it much more seriously as a franchise. In a way, this takes concepts from previous Evil Dead films and then roots them in a completely serious, much more serious way. The other thing is the setting. The previous Evil Dead movies, for the most part, took place in a cabin in the woods, right? This is not a cabin in the woods or at an S-Mart. This is in a dilapidated apartment building in a downtown area that's about to be condemned. They're the sort of last few residents that still live there. So it's not just a family. It's not just Ellie and her kids that live in this building. There are other neighbors. There's an incredibly shocking, really cool scene that all takes place. This whole scene plays out through when you look through a door and you've got the little, what do they call that? Why am I spacing? I'm pre-coffee, folks.
Describe the door again.
You're looking through the eye hole, the hole in the door.
The keyhole.
The keyhole. Is that
which we can't? I've never been able to look through a keyhole like that. So.
Yeah. Anyways, so there's like a whole scene that plays out over it that is horrifying. And the other thing is, once you see certain characters are certain type. Here's what I'll say without saying anything. When you realize certain types of characters get killed, no one is safe. because there's almost like this unwritten rule of like, well, they would never kill this person, or they would never kill this type of person based on their identity. Oh, this movie doesn't care. This film doesn't care. All bets are off. Everyone is fair game in spite of the cast, in spite of the identities of the people in the film. Does that make sense? Because there's almost like these unwritten rules of horror, like, you know, like they talk about it in Scream and whatnot. Like, oh, this movie just doesn't, the tone of this is like, nope, we are going to just, you're going to see types of characters go through horrific things. And I will say, like, there are some shocking things where I did that, like, like put my hands up in front of my eyes. Yes, I actually did that, folks. So I'll say this. If you are a horror fiend, if you love gore, and you just got to know this is very different from previous Evil Dead movies. I think I didn't like that first trailer. The second trailer got me very interested in the film. I love this movie. The gore is, I love it. I recommend it with a warning. This isn't like previous Evil Dead movies. And it's incredibly gory, horrific, and shocking based on the kills. I mean, there are some just horrific kills. I don't want to ruin stuff, but there were like moments, and it's in the trailer, where someone's eating a glass and swallowing the glass, and you see the glass going down their neck, and the sound. I will say the sound design, incredible. Make sure to see this in a theater that's like a Dolby Digital or whatnot, like one of those theaters that just has epic sound. The sound will just definitely make you frightened and horrified. So
I will say that. I will say that I was going to see Evil Dead Rise. Then I saw the trailer for it, and then I said I was out. It just, yeah, I was expecting a little bit more levity to it, and clearly from the trailer, there's no levity in this film.
Yeah,
it's a straight out horror.
Yeah. So there you go. I'm recommending it. I am giving a strong recommendation for Evil Dead Rise, with a warning that it's incredibly gory and it's very different from previous films in the Evil Dead franchise. It's not jokey Bruce Campbell type of stuff. So buckle up for Evil Dead Rise.
Yeah.
Let's go to your
comments. I knew you would like it because Eric Weber hated it.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Eric Weber hated it. Oh my God. By the way, I played a joke on Eric Weber, and I have video. We'll talk about it later. Remind me of my Eric Weber story before the show. End of the show. I want to get to your comments and questions. Imperfect says original Evil Dead is the GOAT. I agree. And one quick thing that I really loved in the film. One quick thing I really loved was there's a little ode to the old classic Evil Dead, which is Sam Raimi used these things. He would take he wanted to do steady cam shots like in Rocky, but he couldn't afford a steady cam. So what did Sam Raimi do? He took a 2x4, big long thing of wood. He slapped his camera in the middle of this 2x4 and had two people run with it so that you'd have the center beam, and it had this look of like this sort of floaty. It was sort of the Spirit POV. They use it in the opening of the movie, and it's freaking awesome. It's a shout out to the original Evil Dead, and I loved it. Look, I'll say this. Evil Dead Rise is not woke. There are two kids in and it's sort of like, well, they have like weird, I just thought like, oh, they just have haircuts of kids that age. Give me a break. People on Rumble have not been watching us long enough. Look at some of our past videos. I'm not going. I'm being trolled on Rumble now. I'm being trolled on Rumble. Love you guys. Okay, appreciate.
Yeah, I mean, I think wokeness has a lot to just calling things out, making a point, lecturing us.
There's nothing like that in this movie. No character stops and says, "Well, as a trans person, it's like it just doesn't matter." They have, I don't know. See for yourself. See for yourself. It's sans lecturing.